Ahead and get started. Welcome back. We've had a couple of weeks off. I hope everybody enjoyed their break. As I think I announced last time, but just for purposes of administrative clarity, we were to have had Frank Bellotti and Hank Aaron on October 11th, and we were waiting to hear about the outcome of some surgery that Mr. Aaron had. That, I'm pleased to say, went extremely well, and we have him rescheduled for the last day of class, so Hank Aaron will be here on December 6th. I wouldn't ordinarily plug anybody else in the day before exams start or 2 days before exam starts, but I'm not worried about attendance for his lecture. So I just want to make sure that I got that announcement across. And it's been updated on the concourse calendar, and I'll also make sure I update it on the other materials as well. I wanted to take a few minutes, since we're about halfway through the semester, give or take, and just kind of recap a little bit where we've been, really by way of introducing tonight's lecture. If you remember back to the very first lecture that I gave at the beginning of the semester, there were a number of things that I pointed out, some of which are kind of rebutting preconceived notions about entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I really want to drive home, and that I hope all of the lecturers are going to drive home over the course of the semester, is that entrepreneurship is really a series of skills and attitudes and abilities, some of which, it is true, can be inherent, but which can also be acquired and can be studied. And so what we've tried to do with the agenda, if you will, of lecturers over the course of the entire fall semester is to introduce you to some of these skills and to show you how they can be manifest very, very effectively and appreciated, whether in a startup or in an established venture, because what we're seeing, and I think it should be clear from some of the people we've heard from, Fred Keller, Chris Stevens, is that CEOs of some of the most innovative established enterprises are really looking for employees, current and future employees, who have these kinds of skill sets, and they're creating a culture where those are going to flourish. I may also have mentioned, I don't remember or not, that entrepreneurship is really an emerging discipline and field of study. It's beginning to distinguish itself from other traditional forms of study, even in business and in engineering, technology, commercialization, and that sort of thing. And so with all of that in mind, I am extremely pleased to be able to introduce tonight's guest, who is one of the foremost and premier researchers in the area of entrepreneurship. Our guest this evening is Professor Saras Sarasvathy, and so I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about her background. She received both a master's degree in industrial administration and a PhD in information systems from Carnegie Mellon University. Her thesis was on entrepreneurial expertise, and her thesis advisor was Herbert Simon, who was the 1978 Nobel laureate in economics. She's a member of the Strategy, Entrepreneurship, and Ethics area and teaches courses in entrepreneurship and ethics at the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. In addition, she also teaches in doctoral programs in Denmark, India, Croatia, and South Africa. In 2007, Professor Sarasvathy was named one of the top entrepreneurship professors in the country by Fortune Small Business magazine. Before she joined the faculty of Darden, she was on the faculty at the University of the University of Washington and the University of Maryland, and before that she was on the founding team of 5 different entrepreneurial ventures. She's a leading scholar on the cognitive basis for high-performance entrepreneurship. She serves on the editorial boards of the Journal of Business Venturing and the Strategic Entrepreneurship Journal. She's the advisor to entrepreneurship education programs in Europe and Asia. Her scholarly work has won several awards, including the 2001 William H. Newman Award from the Academy of Management and the 2009 Gerald Hill's Best Paper Award from the American Marketing Association. She has a book out called Effectuation, Elements of Entrepreneurial Expertise, and the book was nominated for a 2009 Terry Book Award by the Academy of Management. She's coined the term effectuation, which she'll be talking to us about tonight, to describe a particular type of entrepreneurial thinking and decision-making. And this has become widely acclaimed as a rigorous framework for understanding the creation and growth of new organizations and markets. The research program based on effectuation involves over a dozen scholars from around the world whose published and working papers can now be found on the web. You can go to www.effectuation.org, and she'll have it up there so that you don't have to worry about how to spell it. Professor Sarasvathy has also developed several cases and other instructional materials to teach effectuation. She's going to have a new textbook as well as some open source material available later on. Please join me in welcoming tonight's guest, Professor Saras Sarasvathy.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me well? Is there too much of an echo? Should I move something? Is that better? Is it okay? All right. So, good evening, everyone. Let me hear a good evening. All right. You can call me Saras. You don't have to worry about Professor Sarasvathy. It's a pretty complicated name. And if I get to meet you afterwards, I'll call you by your first name as well. I remember, it's long, long ago and far, far away, being an undergrad and coming to lectures, and it's not always easy to keep your attention for an hour with somebody talking at you. So I would like to keep it interactive. And I also want to tell you up front, I have a total of 15 slides, some of which will go pretty fast, so you know how much there is, so it won't go on forever. And feel free to raise your hands and ask any questions, and we will also have time for more discussion at the end, right? So I want to keep it moving, and I just want to tell you very quickly that there are a lot of people who have been involved in this research. It's not just me. So I have some of the names up there, and this is one of the things that we want to think about as researchers or as people who are trying to accomplish anything in the world. There are a lot of people involved, and hence the picture also shows you many different hands. To get us started, so having been an entrepreneur, when I came back into academia, there was this story about how entrepreneurship works. And believe it or not, the story still goes on, right? So there's this conventional wisdom, this idea of how entrepreneurship works. So if you look at it, you get started, you come up with a brilliant idea, right? Facebook or Google or Starbucks or Staples or whatever your favorite, entrepreneur does. So the idea is you come up with this brilliant idea, and then you're sure there's a large market for it, right? So you have to do some kind of evaluation of your idea, make sure you're not talking to yourself in the mirror, maybe do some market research and show why this is going to be the next best thing since Groupon, or whatever the latest thing is. I have about 10 students coming up with Groupon related ideas in my class at this point. Every year it's a different one. So you want to show a large market for it. And then of course you have to write a winning business plan, and which is a good idea because there's a lot of money out there that you can go get if you know how to write a winning business plan. And of course the business plan is a winning business plan, and you go pitch it to investors and you raise a bunch of money, and then you execute, right? You build your venture, you grow it hopefully, and then either you go public or you sell it, and then there's the happy ending. We all go off to the Bahamas, right? This is the standard story. Was there a question or something? I heard a noise. All right. I think just from what you have heard so far and done here in this course, you probably know that this is not quite how the world works. This is not quite how entrepreneurship happens. Does anybody want to tell me what is wrong with this picture? Like how is entrepreneurship in the real world actually different? Does anybody want to? Don't make me come out there, I will. I need to see a hand raised. I really never liked listening to lectures, and I don't particularly enjoy giving lectures. Let me see a hand, or else I will cold call you. All right. Yes, that's great. I saw your hand. No, I saw your hand. All right. Okay. So wouldn't you do that in the business plan? All right? Anything else that you think would be different? So now let me ask you a different question. How many of you, have that brilliant idea that you want to build into a venture? There's a gentleman at the back. What are your ideas? No? It's too brilliant. People are going to steal it. Right?
Well, like, for the Klosky, and the idea is it's a socket for the wall that detects when you've got the entering current and disables the sound.
So it's a socket in the wall, right? I got that right. After that, I got something about stable currents, but I didn't hear the middle phrase.
The entering current. Where it detects that you've got something plugged in that's not actually needing power.
Okay. So it's a way to make sure that you're not wasting energy. Is that the idea? Yeah. All right. It is brilliant. Okay? I think it is brilliant. But how about the rest of us dummies who do not have that brilliant idea? Can we become entrepreneurs or not? That's awesome, by the way. So go for it. What about the rest of us? So as somebody who wants to be in this business, right, to teach entrepreneurship, and who's been an entrepreneur and done it a little bit, I started thinking about what is it that I want to do research on and bring to the classroom. And it makes sense to, let's go and see how entrepreneurs actually do this, right? Do they actually follow this path? How many of them begin with a brilliant idea? How many of them actually write a business plan? Things like that. But more importantly, I was also very interested in understanding what is it that they had learned by doing this over and over and over again. So in my research, I looked at how expert entrepreneurs do it. And here's the definition of an expert. Right? An expert is somebody who has done it for at least 15 years or longer. This is a standard definition of expertise in any field. 10 years or longer, full-time experience in the domain of expertise, right? So in this case, 15 years or longer. These are people who build multiple ventures, including successes and failures. So the idea was not to look only at success, but to look at experience. And experience in entrepreneurship involves successes as well as failures. And also looked at, the idea that these are people who have taken at least one company public. That was just from the point of view of research to make sure that there is more data that I can get from the public domain. So took a look at this population, and it consisted of only about 245 people who even qualified, and 45 of them agreed to participate in this study. And the study also was slightly different than you might imagine. The normal way to look at it is to go look at the ventures that these people build, and then interview them, and maybe even survey a larger bunch. Those are some of the methodologies that we. I did all that, but I also went one little step deeper, because I wanted to get into their heads. So I had all these expert entrepreneurs who had built companies in many, many different industries, and the only thing they had in common was entrepreneurial expertise. I gave them a 17-page problem set. I'm sure you guys know all about problem sets. So 17-page problem set of 10 typical decisions that happen in a startup. These are complex problems, not just a questionnaire. And I had all of them think aloud continuously as they solve the problem. So I got to see, the same problem being attacked by all these different entrepreneurs who build companies in many different industries. And I got to see inside their heads a little bit, because I got to see not only what decisions they made, but how they made the decisions. What kind of information they looked at, what kind of information they ignored, how they went from point A to point B, and how exactly they arrived at the decision. And it turned out that what we discovered, and this is, I was describing the first study, but there's been a series of studies over the last 10 years. We really have a basis now for understanding what is it that you learn through entrepreneurial experience, especially things that are also learnable by anybody. The 99% of dummies that do not have the brilliant ideas. And it is very interesting, because both for the person with the idea and without the idea, there are some useful lessons to be learned here. Okay? And what we found at the end of it, we call effectual reasoning. And that is because it is the inverse of causal reasoning, which is what we teach in a lot of the normal management programs in business schools, right? In MBA programs, for example. So it turns out that these expert entrepreneurs are completely inverting the logic. And here is a very quick glimpse of all the studies so far. And you can see that expert entrepreneurs are at one end of the spectrum and expert corporate managers at the other end. Because now we have studied all these groups. Now we have replicated the study with corporate managers, with novice entrepreneurs, with angels, VCs, and organic growth leaders and launch firms, right? So it turns out that there is this inversion that's actually in the data. Okay, so here we come. Consider, I want to give enough time that we actually cover everything and have time for a discussion. So here's the key finding. The most important thing that we discovered in this particular thing, the reason we even need a different name for it, was this. In a lot of the courses you take in business, and I know at least half the room here or more are business students. So, when you take marketing, for example, how do you decide which market to enter? So the way we look at it is we do some kind of, if you have a strategy class, you do some kind of a market analysis, a competitive analysis, and you try to find a lonely market segment, or a market segment that has the highest potential for growth with the least amount of competition. So we actually try to project how different segments will do, and then we pick a segment. If you're investing, we look at investment A versus investment B, and we say which one should be invested, and we teach you to predict the future cash flows, and then calculate the present value of those future cash flows, and then you can come up with a better expected return. Hiring two people, it's the same thing. We try to predict which one of them will perform better. And the reason we invest so much in prediction is because to the extent that we can predict the future, we can control the outcomes, right? Even if you cannot control the future itself, you can control your outcomes. So that's the logic of a lot of good management education, and that's the way it should be. I'm not going to diss this, but you're going to see why expert entrepreneurs actually do kind of the inverse, which is, to the extent that you can control the future, you don't need to predict it. So these expert entrepreneurs have figured out ways to make decisions in the face of extreme uncertainty without having to resort to prediction, or at least minimizing any reliance on predictive information. So that is a cool finding. Don't you think it's cool? Yes? No? Yeah, some people nodding. Some people think, what the heck does that mean? Right? And I am with you, because the question really is, how do you control a future you cannot predict? Like, how do you achieve control? What does it mean to the extent you can control the future you don't need to predict? So the next slide, I'm going to take you through 5 principles that are at the heart of this way of thinking. And as Laura mentioned earlier, you will see very quickly, even though all the data came from these, big entrepreneurs, the fact is you will quickly see that it is much more generally applicable than just building companies, right? So when I teach my undergrads, I usually ask them, like, how would you find a date, effectually versus causally? I do that. You can think of how do you solve the world's biggest problems, poverty, illiteracy, child trafficking. You can do it causally or effectually, and so on. So in the next slide, when I talk to you about the 5 principles, you'll see both the causal principle and the effectual principle explained in terms of businesses and starting new ventures. But the fact is, you can think more generally about them, and hopefully we'll get to talk about it more generally as well. So here goes. So the first one. So remember on the first slide, we had the conventional wisdom that says you begin with a brilliant idea, preferably an idea that has a large market, right? So what do you call an opportunity? We begin with a very high potential opportunity. It turns out that the expert entrepreneurs don't really begin with a brilliant idea or some kind of a huge opportunity. It turns out later that it was, but they usually begin very simply with who you are, what you know, and whom you know. So if you go back to all those companies that I mentioned, right, whether you think about Google or Facebook or Starbucks or Staples. In each of those cases, these are people who were doing what they knew how to do. Very often, they were actually doing it as part of the job or something, even. And many of these ideas, they're not really brilliant to begin with. They're kind of mundane. And there is absolutely no reason why you can't go home tonight and think through, who am I, what do I know, whom do I know, and start asking, what kind of venture can I build? And let me give you a little example for you to think this through in a little bit more depth. How many of you like to cook? Lots of people who like to cook. Okay, I haven't even told you what this thing is yet, but tell me how you would cook causally. If you were cooking causally, how would you cook? I promise you, you know the answer to this one. Yes?
Very carefully.
What does that mean? What does very carefully? How would you begin?
Well, I mean, I begin by looking up what it was, just because I know I know what it is.
Okay, so you want to start by thinking what you want? Is that what you said?
Sure.
All right. The person next to you?
Follow the recipe and follow the recipe.
Yeah. So hopefully you have a way to figure out what you want to cook, and then you start finding what's the best recipe you have for that. Find a good recipe that you want to eat, and then you buy the ingredients, and hopefully you have all the utensils you need, and you cook the dish, right? Bingo. I told you, you knew this already. So now, how will you cook effectually? No, that's not a hand, that's just a handle. How would you cook effectually? And trust me, you know this one too. It's not rocket science. Yes, in the back, yes. Yes? Please speak louder. I have a microphone, you don't.
Just boil a bunch of ingredients and see what happens.
Ah, okay. So maybe come into the kitchen and open the refrigerator and the cupboards and see what you have available, right? So exactly. So I told you, you know this. It's more rocket science, right? So you come into the kitchen, you see what kinds of beans, what kinds of material, what kinds of ingredients are available, and you start thinking about what can I cook with this, and you start cooking, correct? Okay? Now here's the kicker question, the extra bonus points question. Which dish will be better? The causal dish? Yes? You think the causal dish? Yes?
I was going to say it depends on, it'll vary.
Depend on what? Come on, you're doing very good.
Sometimes you'll get a really good effectual dish, and sometimes you get a really horrible effectual dish. And then,
Sure, but based on what? What does it depend on? You're absolutely correct.
so it depends on what you have or what you decide to throw in.
All right, if you don't have salt, you're screwed, right? Yeah, okay. It depends on that. What else? In the back?
On your preferences, what you like better.
Uh-huh. So what would you like to eat? And you may not have the things in the fridge that you actually would like to eat, sure. What else? A couple of other things? Yes?
I cooked it before, bad experience.
Exactly. Whether you know to cook at all, begin with that, and then have you cooked it before? Do you have experience how good a cook are you? So we're not getting away from any of those things. And you still have got to take your classes in accounting and finance and marketing and everything else. You've got to know the basics of business. You have to know all those things. You have to know what you're doing. You're not getting away from that. But assuming you are a good cook, right, there are still some differences between causal and effectual cooking. Just sticking to the cooking example. For example, in the causal case, let's say you set out to make Swedish meatballs. What do you get at the end of it? What do you get at the end of it?
Swedish meatballs.
Swedish meatballs, all right. Okay, in the effectual case, what happens, do you think?
Sometimes you might not get Swedish meatballs.
Yeah, it depends on what's on the fridge, and depends on, what you do with it. And the chances that you come up with something new go up, including something you might not actually have cooked before. Because you might have cooked the dish, but as you cook, you may not have one or two ingredients, and you replace them with something else. And people invent new dishes all the time. So Dan Pink, who's written a couple of best-selling business books, calls this the difference between the Swedish chef and the Iron Chef, right? So the effectual model is kind of the Iron Chef. So you're given some ingredients, you're asked to do, you're given some time constraints, and you say go, that kind of thing. So that's a restaurant causes. And I'm telling you, you know this. The best, the best wisdom in the world is something we already know, but we don't have a frame to think about. So, yes? Yeah, you try to say you want to start an Italian restaurant, then what happens? What do you do next? So you got to go find somebody who knows how to cook good Italian food, right? Couple more steps. Yeah, so you have to find a location, which is going to cost money, right? And then you have to think about decorating it, getting the kitchen equipped, getting the licenses, incorporating all those kind of things. And then, then maybe you start thinking marketing. When you're looking at location, if you are in a swank downtown place, you will build a very different restaurant than you are in a more fun neighborhood near the university or something where people may not have as much money, but then you want to have maybe funky art on the wall, a little bit of interesting music, that kind of thing. So it depends on, and once you've chosen the location, and once you have a marketing strategy or a vision for the restaurant, that drives a lot of the decisions, right? And then you go into, okay, how would you build a restaurant effectually? A little bit trickier now. Remember where you're starting, right? You're starting with who you are, what you know, and whom you know. How do you build an effectual restaurant? I'm glad. This is way more interactive than I had hoped for. This is awesome. So I want to see one more hand. This is a little trickier. Attempt it. Come on, take a shot. Yes?
You can take anyone you know who knows how to cook, whatever location you happen to have, and easily just sort of throw something together at home. That's sort of like.
Okay. Do you even need to find a cook and a place?
No, I have to use this home.
Ah, all right. Now we are cooking, right? What I mean to say is you could simply start, if you happen to know how to cook, you could simply start by cooking, right? Invite a bunch of people over and tell them, for whatever reason I'm thinking of doing something like this, what do you think? And a lot of people get started, it's a cart somewhere. Or it's just, I myself did this. I went downtown to my cousin's office and I brought some lunch. And people signed up and I started a little lunch service, right? You're not even thinking location, you're not even thinking. So you kind of just start with what you know to do, which is cooking. It could be that you don't know to cook at all, but maybe you know a great location for a restaurant. And then you would build it very differently, right? So depending on who you are, what you know. And it's quite possible that you start with the idea of a restaurant and then you end up building something completely different. For example, I started a lunch service, and it started going well, and slowly moved from, one floor of the building to another floor, from one building to another building. Eventually, I had to hire someone to come in to deliver the food because it was getting too big for me. And I hired my friend here, and 2 weeks later, my orders dropped. What did you do? Right? This happens in entrepreneurship a lot of the time. And it turned out a lot of the customers, it was not really the food they liked. They kind of liked my coming there, and I was maybe entertained and whatever, I was a bit of a cook. And so they were telling me it's just not the same. So let's say for a minute that the story is true, and this is the feedback you get. That it's not really the food. I know you think you're a good cook, but it's actually you. What would you do with that information? Come on, you started a lunch service, yes? Should I keep talking to these people in the front? People in the back, raise your hands and holler, okay? Yes, go. Hire people like me. There ain't another one like me, And it's true, actually, for everybody. Yes. So, that's a good idea, but you can't. What else could you do? I'm just trying to make life difficult for you. Ah, okay. So what is it about my cookiness that sells, right? And you start thinking, how can you make that into a product? If you ask yourself that question, so now you want to start thinking through, absolutely. So if you go and look at the histories of a lot of ventures out there, you will find this kind of a story over and over again. There are some people who just got started with something,
And then other people started buying in or buying out of things, and they changed the product, changed the business model, they changed the whole idea behind the venture, and they end up somewhere else altogether. I can give you story after story after story. But you can see very clearly, if I have actually an entire session with you just on this, which I do, students come up with an amazing idea. They say make a video, right? Start a cooking class. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can think around. You can come up with 15 very good ideas in 20 minutes very quickly on things that you could do. So this is also one of the problems, right? You start with who you are, what you know, whom you know. And you are thinking about all the things you could do. Now, if you start with the notion of, I have to have a brilliant idea, most of us just get paralyzed because we don't get brilliant ideas for the most part. Or even if we get, most of the time we shoot it down ourselves and we say, that can't be a brilliant idea, that's a stupid idea. That's the first thing we tell ourselves usually, right? But if you use this approach and you come up with, now all of a sudden you're going to have a whole, bunch of ideas. You could do this or that or something else, and then it becomes very confusing how you choose. So let's go to the next one. This is, what do you actually do? And what drives what expert entrepreneurs do is not really the issue of which one has the biggest market potential and where will I make the most money. Instead, again, they're thinking of the opposite. They're actually thinking, I'm going to invest in it only what I can afford to lose and no more. This is kind of a surprising result if you think about it, because we think entrepreneurs are visionaries who can see this huge market that nobody else can see. I don't know if you know about Google. In the early stages, right, they tried to sell the company for $1 million. They were the 65th search engine. And they were lucky enough that the professor believed in the search engine and introduced them to a couple of angels in Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley being what it is, somebody wrote them a bit of a check, and they got started. They didn't have a bank account when they got the first check, right? They had called it something. And then they get started, and at the end of the second year, they want to sell it for $1 million. Nobody wants to buy it, right? So they're forced to continue and become billionaires. So if you think about this in terms of how can you and I come up with the idea for Google, the answer is very simple. No, we ain't never going to do that, right? And we don't want to do that. We really want to go back to who we are, what we know, whom we know. And we want to just do the things that we think we can do, but not wait forever, not wait for the perfect opportunity. We invest only what we can afford to lose. I'll give you one more example of this affordable loss principle. A lot of the time, most of you probably will finish and go to work. And A, there is nothing wrong with that. B, that's a very good thing, right? Because it increases a lot of things about who you are, what you know, and whom you know when you go out and work for a while. So people go out and work for a while, and then someday they decide they want to start a company. And how do you make that decision? In their field, we call this the plunge decision, right? It feels frightening. And this is why we think entrepreneurs are risk takers. Now, if you go again to the histories of entrepreneurs and look at how they do it, many of them actually don't really say, you know what, I'm earning $200,000 as a consultant, and I'm going to leave all this and start a company because I think that company will make me $20 million in 3 years. Nobody makes decisions that way, right? Hopefully not, and hopefully you never will make decisions that way. Instead, they say, you know what, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've been a consultant for 10 years, thinking of settling down. I'm, kind of tired of the traveling, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I'm a consultant. I don't know anything. Right? I don't know how to do it. But maybe you know a thing or two about something. And you think, I want to take, about $50,000 from my savings and give it about 6 months. And what's the worst that will happen? I may be back on the job market in 6 months or a year's time, and I may have to get a job that pays only $150,000 and not $200,000. And you're thinking, is it worth it, right? And so a lot of the decisions that expert entrepreneurs make not only are about reducing kind of the downside, but also the experts are very good at bringing it down to zero. And remember, these people that I actually studied, these are billionaires. So in the interview piece, I actually asked them, are you telling me this is how you will do it now? And there are very interesting answers. They said, yes, A, our affordable loss has increased a little bit. So sometimes I do take a bet. kind of upside that they're worrying about. And here, the third principle is the other reason that they are more focused on the affordable cost. So normally we think about, let's go and do competitive analysis of the market. But here you don't really know what markets you're going to end up in, right? You're starting a little lunch service, you don't know, maybe you end up at a school at the end of it or something else. And so the idea of doing market research or doing competitive analysis at that early stage doesn't make sense to the expert entrepreneur. Instead, what they're trying to do is to really get this network of self-selected stakeholders. They're actually saying, let's go talk to people, and depending on who comes on board, we will decide where to go next. I'm going to spend a little bit more time with this one, so I will skip this and go to the next one, and we'll come to this again in the next slide. So, if you build businesses this way, and if you build ventures effectually, or if you try to solve problems effectually, or if you try to live effectually, you are going to be surprised, right? This is dealing with a completely unpredictable future without using any predictive information. And so you are going to find surprises. And expert entrepreneurs get very good at dealing with surprises. Even negative surprises, they can turn into positive ones. Right? So Stemberg tells the story of getting fired because the business that he was heading up in the giant grocery chain that he worked for was sold out from under him, and he is jobless. And he thinks about, what can I do? And it turns out the guy who's been competing with him has sold his business, and he calls him and he says, Tom, I've competed with you for the last 7 years, and you've given me a good running. So anything you want to do, he says, I would be willing to invest in because I just sold my business. And it turned out, so he's thinking, what do I do? Because this is one minute he's, downsized, fired. A couple of days later, he gets this offer from somebody. And he's thinking, what do I do now, right? What can I do? And he decides to do what he knows how to do. And so he decides to come up with some good idea of a specialty grocery chain. And he's working on the business plan because this guy is going to meet with him the next week to finalize the investment deal. So he's frantically building up his business plan. And it's a 4th of July weekend. And this is the time of typewriters, by the way, probably before you were born. But there's a time of typewriters, and he runs out of a particular typewriter ribbon. And he says, what do I do? And he tries, frantically, because Monday morning he has a meeting, and he tries to go buy the ribbon, and it's not available anywhere. And so he's been working on this business plan, but he can't really finish it because he's run out of typewriter ribbon. And he suddenly realizes, first of all these supplies and everything is really expensive for small business owners. And in some cases, you can't get them at all, right? Like on a long weekend. So he says, I want to fix that problem. He throws out his business plan, and Monday morning he says, I don't have a business plan because I don't have the typewriter report, but here's the idea. We're going to start an office supply chain. And that's where the tagline, the original tagline of Staples came from. Yeah, they got that, right? So their aim was to have everything in store for a small business person. So that's where Tom comes up with the idea. So, and then the last one is really this overall philosophy, this view that the future does not come from some inevitable trends that we can study and analyze and find out on our own, and then we can be brilliant and we come up with the perfect marketing plan or the perfect business plan. Instead, it's a more humble, more human worldview which says the future actually comes from what people do. And if I can work with enough people and enough people come on board and they invest enough or buy enough, well, I have a business. And then once I have a business, then I'll push it. And I'll push it. And there'll be other people who are pushing with me. And then we'll grow it. And it's very, very, very people-centered. So since it is people-centered, let's go look at this principle in slightly more detail in a minute. But before I do that, does anybody have a question so far that you would like to raise? Remember, I don't like to lecture all the time. And I'm a cognitive scientist, and I know that the amount of time that we can actually have attention, cognitively speaking, from the point of your mind, is like 7 minutes, right? So if I go on for 45 minutes, it's not good. So does anybody have a question or an issue you want to raise so far? Yes? Person in orange.
So a person does do their job and decides to be an entrepreneur for a little bit. What do they do for money in the meantime while they don't have a steady job?
So one of the things you're asking is if you want to do it for affordable cost, how do I do? Excellent question. Do you know how many people actually have a full-time job when they start their business? Some of the greatest companies in the world. People work nights and weekends and start. And I'll give you one story of this one. And I'll tell you, it's not a question of money, and we're going to talk about this. A lot of people think that you just have to leave your job and then you start your company. And so what do I do with my family in the meanwhile, for example? But I can give you example after example after example. I'm just going to give you one, but there's like over a dozen. And each of them are like giant companies, so you would think that it would have taken a lot of funding. But here's the story of BFI, which is Browning Ferris, the big garbage collection company. They sold it to Waste Management. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. So the guy who founded it, Tom Fadjo, he was an accountant. And he worked in a very good accounting firm in Houston, very white-collar family, you know, living in a very, very nice suburban development. And the development had a garbage problem. So every time they would have the homeowners association meeting, they would talk about, you know, we have this, you know, this stupid garbage company, they don't come on time, you know, they don't completely clean out, and it's just completely unreliable. So after a couple of these meetings, Tom says, these are only like 150 or 200 houses, right? Why don't we just buy our own garbage truck? How difficult can this problem be? And he raises an issue a couple of times, and people say, okay, Tom, smart guy, every time you bring this issue up, you just come up with the same solution. Why don't you go buy the truck? And so he decides he goes, buys the truck. And every day for a year, he wakes up at 4 in the morning, collects the garbage from his neighbors, right, takes care of it, comes back, showers, wears his suit, and goes to his accounting firm to do taxes for his clients. At the end of the year, right, the garbage business is singing to him, it's calling to him. He knows there's so much in here that it becomes very difficult for him to get up in the morning and go to the job. Can you imagine him coming home and saying, honey, you know what, I'm quitting my basics accounting firm and I'm going to haul garbage. But the thing is, he and his brother and the family had kind of gone through this together over the year. So people kind of knew that this was not a huge leap. And he can always go back and get an accounting job, right? So they decide, you know, to take a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and try this out. So that's what I mean by you don't have to have, and I can also give you examples of companies that have started with virtually no money. At least in this case, he had to buy a truck, you know, that much money he had to put in. But the thing is, once you have shown proof of concept, right, you want to get to, that's why the self-selection part. If you are the person chasing investors, right, you're not doing it right. If you have a couple of investors calling you the day after you get fired, that's how you build a great company, right? So for a year, you're an accountant hauling garbage, and then the accounting business becomes like, it seems not at all a good career compared to the garbage business. And you prove the concept that people around you say, Tom, you should do it. You know, here's 50,000 or here's 20,000. Here's how we'll support you. You should go do this thing for it. That's when you actually do it, right? It's a very different view of entrepreneurship. It's not the, you know, cowboy, I'm going to take all the risk, I have this vision, I'm going to build. It's really not. It's much more human. Does that answer your question? And I can give you more examples about funding and so on. As I say, as students, the single most important source of funding for you is business plan competitions. So I tell my students, everything you win from business plan competitions, it's all affordable loss money for you, right? And if you earn enough from the business plan competition to pay 1 year's worth of salary worth, you know, you can make 1 year to go back on the job market. You know, so there are many different ways to do it. But I hope I at least tackle the question a little bit. And thank you. I love this. You guys are asking questions and you're really engaged at, I don't know what time it is, almost 5:45 in the evening. So let me just, this is going to be, I'm going to just look into this a little bit more detail, and then we're going to start. So we don't have that much left. So here we go. So let's take the same principles that we talked about so far. We just talked about principle 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now we actually put it in motion and see what happens. So you get started with who I am, what I know, and whom I know. You start thinking about what can I do with this? and you do the kinds of things that you can do for affordable loans, which means you're not going to take huge risks, you're not taking out a second mortgage on your house or something like that. And it's also something you say, this is something I want to do, even if I lose the time of it. So that's the real gut check, right, or what to do. So affordable loans works both ways. It keeps the costs low, but it also makes you think about an upside that is not purely financial. So you start thinking about what you can do. You come up with 2 or 3 ideas. Some people come up with 20, and that's fine. Come up with 1 or 2 ideas, and almost immediately, you're not doing any analysis. Like tonight, you do the who I am, what I know, the bird in hand analysis. Tomorrow, you come up with 3 or 4 things, and then tomorrow, you start building the venture, right? And the very first thing you do is you start talking to other people. And every time you talk with anybody and start with your own network, you'll be amazed to what is available in this room at this point in time. And I've done this exercise over and over again. Just say, here's what I'm trying to do. Any ideas? Advice? What do you think? And in some cases, you also want to try to pitch. If you think it is a potential customer, make a sales pitch. If you think it is a potential investor, make an investor pitch. You're pitching, but you're not really doing a head-on sales pitch. You're not trying to say, this is the greatest idea in the world. Here's why. You're actually thinking, here's what I'm thinking of doing. Let me pitch it to you. Tell me what you think. Right? It's that kind of the soft pitch. And you do that to people all the time. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get them to commit in some way. Put some kind of skin in the game. And the skin in the game very often in the early stages is not money. It's other things, right? So I like to do a little exercise in class, but I will just use it as a prop to show you. So let's say this is your idea. You want to make a blue pen, okay? But remember, the pen doesn't exist. It's like our friend in the back. It's a brilliant idea. It's just an idea. It's in your head. It's a gleam in your eye. You don't have the pen yet, but just imagine this is the idea. So you start talking to potential people and say, what do you think? Sometimes maybe somebody comes to class and they happen to be a purchaser for a big retail store, or Tom Stempel shows up somewhere and you think you could sell it to Staples. Or it's just your university purchases people you go talk to and you try to sell it. Or you meet someone else and you're trying to say, I'm doing this business, or you think would people be interested? You're talking to different people. So what happens is you start getting lots of different ideas. For example, people will say, well, you know what, why is it blue? Okay. Maybe if it was green, or somebody else will sit and say, oh, if that is just a pen, it's not cool at all. You need some kind of differentiation. Everybody is getting obese and diabetic in this country. Maybe you could put a little heart monitor on this, right? Or something else, a little chip that allows you to take secret photographs. So whatever, people come up with all these ideas, and if you do that, then I would be interested. So now, what do you do when people you're talking to are beginning to tell you something? So one answer, and this used to be the standard answer. I'm glad to say it's not the standard answer anymore, is that you persist in your vision, right? This is my baby. It's blue, it's plastic, it's a pen. And if you don't like it, I'm going to find someone else that I do. That's where the world is headed. The world is headed toward blue plastic pens. Now, whatever your thing is. So that's, persistence. And persistence is important. Don't underestimate the power. That's one possible response, right? The other one is the opposite, which is to say, adapt. Customer wants green, let's go make green. Customer wants heart monitor in it, let's go make the heart monitor. And we may not have any of the skills to do the heart monitor, but at least we have a customer and we can put that in the business plan, right? That kind of thing. Or else, you learn from it. Learn from all these different ideas, you write them all down, and you start doing some planning, and you say, let me make some projections of where I should be going. Is it the green pen, the heart monitor pen, maybe the pedometer pen, something else, and you try to do a whole bunch of analysis, and you show here is the best market segment. This is what we do in some of the classes in entrepreneurship. As you can imagine, expert entrepreneurs do none of these things, except in later stages sometimes. In the early stage, they have a preference for something else altogether. So go back to what I talked to you about, right? How do you control the future you cannot predict? So the first thing is you're making prediction and control into two different axes. right? Normally we think to the extent you can predict, you can control. So it's a co-extensive model. This one is an orthogonal model, right? It says you can separate prediction and control. And if you do that, you get 4 kinds of logic. And here's what the expert entrepreneurs prefer. They prefer the non-predictive control logic, which basically says co-create. So how do you control a feature you cannot predict? You co-create. So if somebody says, how about making the fence green? Then the expert entrepreneurs will say, that's interesting. What would it take for you to help me make it green, right? So if somebody is saying, okay, I know this person in China who manufactures fence, and I could probably get the tooling done for you real cheap, right? Then you go that way. Someone else says, I have this little, I know this little company in downtown Chicago that's making heart monitors. They're making them smaller and smaller these days. And I could introduce you to that person, and you could talk to them, that they would be interested in putting it in a pen. And you can go that way, because this person is now going to call up the person that he or she knows who's making heart monitors. So what happens here is, every single time you get a commitment, even if it's only a commitment to introduce you to somebody else, you immediately get some new means. And it's no longer I, right? It's who we are, what we know, whom we know. So this is kind of an expanding cycle of resources, even though this is nowhere near money yet, right? But it also changes, it gives you some new goals. You may be making a green pen or a heart monitor pen or something like that. And so what we can do also becomes different, and over a period of time, you end up building kind of surprises, new markets and new firms that nobody thought of before. And the idea is you go commitment by commitment. You don't try, somebody says I will buy 100,000 pieces, ain't good enough. You actually have to have them put some skin in the game. And then you go that way. And until it is completely paid for, you're not building it. And that's how you really do affordable loss, right? So now you're putting all the principles together, as you can see. Okay, it's 5:55. We have 20 minutes. I'd like to take a few questions and then leave, about 3 or 5 minutes at the end, because I have a video clip for you and a quote from an entrepreneur that I want to show you. But that should not take more than like 3 or 4 minutes. So let's take the next 15 minutes and take some questions, because I've given you the basics. There is a ton of stuff out there that we haven't gotten into. As I said, we are teaching multiple courses in this, but the basics are there, and there's a lot more information available, and more information coming in as people do more research and write more cases and so on. So let's have a little bit of an open discussion, and then I'll get you to the entrepreneurs in their own words. You can listen to them, and you can try to hear these principles and this logic. Okay, now I'm going to shut up unless there are questions. Yes? Do we need to get the mic to you?
I think I'm good.
Okay, good. Okay, speak loudly and a little slowly.
Yeah, I was just curious about how, because I can easily see someone getting caught in that cycle of resources.
Yes.
How do you stop that cycle from just reoccurring and eventually say, okay, let's do this now? Because I can easily see that.
Excellent question. So here's where I don't have it on here, but I call it the ACE model, right? So the most important thing here is you're acting, and you're going and talking to people, you're doing that. Then you get a kind of a commitment. As I said, whether it's I'll call somebody and introduce you, or I can pay for the tooling or something. You're going to get only partial commitments in the early stage. But the idea is whatever commitment happens, then you've got to execute on that. Right? That's why it's act, commit, execute. Act, commit. You're going to execute along the way. And a couple of those products are not going to work out. And that's perfectly fine because they are paid for. Right? So that's the whole idea. So you're going to execute, and one of them is going to really work out. It just expands. So you don't really get caught into the thing because you have to act. So the moment you commit with them, somebody commits with you, you have to deliver on that commitment because it's a commitment from your side as well. Right? So that's how you avoid it. In fact, from the cases that we have done, it usually takes only 5 or 6 at the most, usually 3 sometimes, of these by the time you get to it. And as a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you, you actually need only one, right? The right one. The idea is you don't try to imagine what's the right one and chase it. You cast the net wide, and then the right one will walk in the door. Yeah. So with experienced entrepreneurs, the 2 or 3 cycles, they're able to do it. But even with novices, 5, 6 at the most, you can get stuff done. That's one of the beauties of this model of thinking, that it actually moves you into action very quickly, and even when you fail, you actually have learned something, and you are working with other people, right? So your network keeps expanding. And along the way, you will find people who will execute more costly. And so that's a whole other story. The execution very often is causal, right? Now if we're committed to making the tooling, then now we have to think about not only tooling, but getting the raw materials, getting the whole supply chain comes into being. And that's why I say the business school education is important too. So you have to get cost efficient. So you keep going back and forth. Does that answer the question? Yeah, all right. More questions? Yes?
When do you have to worry about intellectual property when you're talking to these effectual stakeholders, bouncing ideas off of them, trying to figure out?
What are you, an American? Yes. Yeah, sure. It depends. There are very, very few areas where intellectual property actually makes a big difference, right? There are a couple of inventions where you can get a patent pending right away, and I know several companies just go ahead with patent pending. It's called, I don't know, it's very, very cheap to do. Actually, and literally, legally, it doesn't mean all that much. But a lot of people just go and they invent, they do that. In something like biotech or something more sophisticated, then IPs do have a role to play, right? But I can give you examples of people who actually build the thing, and then the IP comes later as well. And then the moment you get into things like technology, there is a lot of stuff that it is really not worth attempting any IP, because by the time you finish with the IP, somebody has built something else that in market. So I have Silicon Valley entrepreneurs come to class and they will say, you know, you tell me Microsoft has something very much like it, I don't care, because I can always build around it. So IP is a very interesting issue. People think about IP as a sword, right, that gives you the right to build a great company. But very often, the reason you need to worry about IP is a shield, that you don't want some big companies suing you. So a lot of the time, I tell my students, it's not something you have to worry about, unless it is a particular time. So tell me your idea, and I tell you whether you need to worry about IP. If you can get it very quick, patent pending, you know, go do it. Or in the case of copyright, I tell them do something very simple. You know, write the code, or write the story, or write whatever it is, mail it to yourself, and don't open it, so you have a postmark date on it. So there are lots of things that you can do, very simple, very commonsensical. People have been very creative, but most of the time it's not something you should be sweating over at all. That's my gross generalization of it, but it's not something you need to worry about. So let me give you the more, even more commonsensical reason why. Most of the time you have an idea you think is a brilliant idea. Most people are going to think that it is idiotic. They are going to try to talk you out of doing that. They'll tell you 1,000 things that's wrong with it, right? So we think people are out to copy us, and most of the time people are not out to copy it at all. It's when we are a little bit more successful that it becomes an issue. So your first concern out of the door, out of the gate, should not really be IP, unless you're, discover some new kind of molecule, or you have figured out a way to make energy from thin air, or something like that. I wouldn't worry too much. Any other questions? And by the way, one of your very first self-selected stakeholders can be an IP lawyer. I tell that in class too. The only thing you need to know in terms of legal issues is how to get a good lawyer to come work for you for nothing. And you can do that as well. And then the lawyer will take care of all of those things. Yes?
The question I would have is on the interaction with other people.
Yes.
Does it, the group of the people that you're having this interaction, lessen the failure rate? Okay? If in fact you are of the same interest that you have. So for example, you're working on, you think you have the technology. Is it better to interact with other technology people to brainstorm this idea versus just a general universe?
Very good question. The question really is, who do you interact with? Are you going to interact with like-minded people in your network? So you're a technologist, you talk to technologists, or do you want to cast the net more widely? The expert entrepreneur would definitely say more widely. You don't want to be talking to other technologists. You want to be talking to customers, potential investors, potential employees, the community people, government, everybody you can possibly. In fact, you seek out. I tell my students, sitting next to somebody on a plane, especially if you get an upgrade, right? Ask them for, try to sell your idea, or try to raise some money. You'll be surprised. You want to get used to asking people in such a way that they start thinking with you. They are giving you all the negative feedback. They tell you it's all important, and so you want to expose yourself to people who don't think it's the greatest idea in the world. It's the coolest thing in the world, right? You want to talk to a wide variety of people, and do not hesitate to talk to virtually anybody. And every single time you're trying to pull them in a different way, and let them select into it. Let them decide whether they want to be a potential customer or a potential supplier or an investor or something like that. So on the one hand, you're talking to people that you think are important, but you're also wanting to talk much more widely. Does that answer the question? But the question really is when somebody commits, then you want to go that way. And you want to make sure that you want to commit as well and you want to deliver on that way. That's very important. More questions? You have to have more questions than this. Come on, challenge me. Tell me about your idea. What are you doing about your idea? You tell me. What have you done so far?
We've got engineering, we have patents, and we are waiting for people to give the resources to go forward with it.
Ah, okay. So how would you go about knowing whom to sell the product to?
I had a discussion with IBM and Intel and Sun about potentially bring that application to servers. But we have to wait because we're actually selling a previous company first. We go forward with that idea.
Ah, okay. Have you actually tried to get IBM to just underwrite the first proof of concept?
We're not interested in doing that.
Oh, you're not interested in doing that. Why not?
Because they want us to exclusivity, and we want them to sell it every in the market.
You don't know that. Guess what they did with Microsoft? Right? Maybe they learned their lesson. Right? With Microsoft, they did get exclusivity. That's why Bill Gates could go sell the software that they underwrote to anybody he wanted, right? So that's why I'm making the joke. Maybe before your time for most of you here. But what is your affordable laws that ask you? If they ask exclusivity, you walk away. You know that. You know you walk away price. What's going to happen? Why imagine they won't be interested? Because you know you won't be interested until it is on your terms. So what's the harm in asking?
We don't need the financial needs.
Ah, all right. So it's very, very interesting the way people think about why they're talking to somebody or not talking to somebody. And this was one of the surprises in the study that, why would you talk to anybody and everybody, right? That's a very good issue. And it has to do with the unpredictability because the expert entrepreneurs argue that you don't really know where your market is. 3 weeks ago, I had an entrepreneur who came to class. He had invented this thing called painter's pyramid. I don't know if you know about this. It's just 3 pieces of plastic, like pyramid, 3 pyramids. And what happens is when you paint something, right? You're painting a bookshelf or something. You paint it, and then you paint one side, and then you have to wait till it dries. You can turn the other side and paint it. Whereas with these little pyramids, you can actually put it and turn it. And the pyramids are shaped in such a way that they won't affect the wet paint, right? You turn it over. Very simple idea. So when you come up with this idea, who's the person you want to sell it to? So he thought he wants to sell it to Home Depot, right? He was chasing Home Depot for a while, and Home Depot said no. And then he went to a kind of a trade show of the industry. And it turned out a little company in Canada who were actually in the woodworking industry, not even in the hardware industry. They walked by, they loved it, and they became the first customer. And now, of course, he's grown into selling millions of pieces, and he's actually in Home Depot as well, when Home Depot came calling. So he was saying that all the research I had done had not shown me that I should actually be, seeking out the woodworking industry. So I went after hardware, and then it just turned out now I have hardware and woodworking and something else as well. So the 3 industries that left this product. And this happened. So they say how, you know what you want and what you don't want and what you think is going to happen and what you want to happen. But they ask you to ask yourself this question. question, the expert entrepreneurs. How are you going to be surprised? Right? What are you doing to get surprised is something that you want to ask yourself. So let me, in the interest of time, let me show you what the entrepreneurs have talked about, and then we'll come back to the last slide, and then if we have a few more minutes, we can take a few more questions. So I'm going to show you a little video clip. It's only like 2 minutes or something. It's from a Danish entrepreneur named Klaus Meyer. And Klaus started several businesses in the food-related industry in Denmark, 9 of them, I believe. And somebody sent me this video because he had come to Copenhagen Business School, and the week before he came to talk to the students at Copenhagen Business School, they had read the 8-pager that Laura sent out to you, I think, What Makes Entrepreneurs Entrepreneurs, the same reading that you have. And so the students had read like the cooking example, and since this guy was in the food business, they decided to ask him, can you please compare entrepreneurship with cooking? And you'll notice he starts by, he's a little taken aback by nobody's asked him to compare entrepreneurship with cooking, so he starts by being taken aback. But you will see, and see if you can hear some of the principles that we talked about, okay? Here.
In your first question, that was even more difficult to say anything intelligent about. How would I compare entrepreneurship with cooking? Well, there are many similarities, I would say. The way I love to cook is without a recipe and without any fixed plan. I love to come to some place in Hungary or wherever and see which vegetables do we have, what is growing in the garden, do we have any meat, what is in the fridge, and then, dancing a little, wondering how could you do and what could you do and do you know anything, and kind of, interfering a little bit with the surroundings. And that is also how I do businesses. I mean, I listen to people. I talk to my employees. If I have a dishwasher who is very good at flowers, then I should be dead if I didn't ask him to do the flowers. And if I meet somebody in my life who wants to build a dairy, and if we did it together, it could be greater, then I will be attracted. And so the way I build businesses is also the way I cook. I dance around and see what happens and try to feel the energy. But I'm sure that there are maybe more brighter ways of doing it. But from my perspective, it is very much the same thing.
All right. And here's one from Pierre Omidyar, founder of eBay. And this one is just a written text quote, so I'm just going to read it for you. Almost every industry analyst and business reporter I talk to observes that eBay's strength is that the system is self-sustaining, able to adapt to user needs without any heavy intervention from a central authority of some sort. So people often say to me, when you build the system, you must have known that making it self-sustainable was the only way eBay could grow to serve 40 million users a day. You know what's coming, right? Well, no. I made the system self-sustaining for one reason. Back when I launched eBay on Labor Day '95, eBay wasn't my business, it was my hobby. I had to build a system that was self-sustaining because I had a real job to go to every morning. I was working as a software engineer from 10 to 7, and I wanted to have a life on the weekends. So I built a system that would keep working, catching complaints and capturing feedback, even when Pam and I were out on the the only one home was our cat. If I had had a blank check from a big VC and a big staff running around, things might have gone much worse. I would have probably put together a very complex, elaborate system, something that justified all the investment. But because I had to operate on a tight budget, tight in terms of money and tight in terms of time, necessity focused me on simplicity. So I built a system simple enough to sustain itself. By building a simple system with just a few guiding principles, eBay was open to organic growth. It could achieve a certain degree of self-organization. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, whatever future you're building, don't try to program everything. 5-year plans never worked for the Soviet Union. In fact, if anything, central planning contributed to its fall. Chances are, central planning won't work any better for any of us. Build a platform, prepare for the unexpected. And you know you're successful when the platform you build serves you in unexpected ways. That's certainly true of the lessons I've learned in the process of building eBay. Because in the deepest sense, eBay wasn't a hobby and it wasn't a business. It was and is a community, an organic, evolving, self-organizing web of individual relationships formed around shared interests. Right? So I started with what makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurial, and I hope Effectuation is at least at your stage in your life, one of the things, we go all around the world and there are lots of people talking about it. And every time you go, everywhere people will tell you, oh, I would love to be an entrepreneur, I want to be an entrepreneur. But, and then they give 4 reasons over and over again, right? So the first one is I don't have an idea. Hopefully, as it shows, a lot of people don't have a brilliant idea. It's good to have an idea, but it could be just something you spin from who you are, what you know, and whom you know. People say I don't have money, and the affordable law principle suggests even if you have money, don't invest it, right? So basically, try to do it for less. Necessity focuses your necessity kind of thing. So not having money is not a good enough reason for saying you don't want to be entrepreneurial. And then I'm afraid to fail, right? Affordable laws and the crazy quilt take care of that in a way, right? So there are 3 things that expert entrepreneurs will tell you about failure. They'll say, don't worry about failures. All you gotta do, keep them small, kill them young, and don't fail alone, right? If you can do that, success is a process through which you outlive a lot of small failures and accumulate a lot of small successes. And somebody somewhere will call you one day, you're a successful entrepreneur, that's how you will know it. And then the last one is, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to build a venture. Hopefully, you learned that in classes in business school, and hopefully Effectuation has something to teach you there as well. So, what I mean by being entrepreneurial is not necessarily that you have to go and start with the first for-profit company. It can be a venture of any kind. It can be something as simple as trying to change your own life for the better, change the community you live in some way for some kind of positive change, or change the world, whatever it is. And the question really is, start today, right? It's 6:15.
Thank you very much. Okay, everybody, just